Yeah, I'm back at it, I'm in it. I do it, I live it. When I run right through for the finish, cause I'm just gonna go get it. Yeah, I'm back at it, I live it. Yeah, I wanna be the one that did it. So I gotta go and do it, I don't quit it. Man, I'm way up on the promo, and I just gotta go and get it. Man, I'm back at it. I'ma get it, I'ma take it. Oh, I'ma do it, I'ma make it. I'm on my path and I'm mistaken. I'ma be myself and I'm never really faking. Do it now, man, this is for the taking. This is my spot, my chance, my career. I gotta do it right now, cause on me I appear in front of millions of people. I gotta face in the mirror, I gotta look at my fears. I gotta go and just get them, I gotta do it. They say it's stupid, I've been making bangs, I've been making all my music. I don't care what they say, I just gotta go and do it. This is my life and y'all can consume it while y'all can. Well, try to tease all that I got, but I spread disease. Take them down, coming from the east, cause I've been murdering all the enemies. Yeah, I'm back at it, I'm in it. I do it, I live it. When I run right through for the finish, cause I'm just gonna go get it. Yeah, I'm back at it, I live it. Yeah, I wanna be the one that did it. So I gotta go and do it, I don't quit it. Man, I'm way up on the promo, and I just gotta go and get it. Man, I'm back at it.
What is up? It's Tuesday. Talk about it Tuesday. What is up, everybody? Welcome. Hopefully everyone's having a great Tuesday today. Mine has been, wow, it's been super hectic. Holy cow. It's been hectic for one big announcement I have to make today for the stream. But before I make that announcement, I just want to welcome everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. I know I missed last week's Tuesday. Man, my left eye is really, you can tell I'm tired. Grad school has been keeping me very busy. There's a lot on my plate right now, but we're getting through. Anyway, welcome to Taco Tuesday. I know we missed it last week. I apologize for that one. But today we're definitely having one. And in efforts, I know the topics probably sound very similar to Science Friday. But I do want to mention that today we're not really doing science-y as much. That's on purpose, right? Science Fridays are really what makes Science Fridays its own thing. Otherwise, we would just have 2 of these a week. I mean, that's fine too. We can bring in science. We're more than happy. I'm more than happy to bring in any science today. I might dive if there's no one joining the chat today. I have to turn down the volume a little bit. There we go. If no one joins the chat today to have a conversation about this, because that's really what I really am aiming Tuesdays to be, these Taco Tuesdays. It'd be cool to have conversations. Of course, it's easier to bring people onto Discord. So I'll do that from time to time. People will just come onto Discord and we can have a chat live so everyone can hear our chat. Yeah. What else was I going to say? Anyway. So Taco Tuesdays, not bringing in too much science. That's not the focus here. We can bring it in as a talking point, or people are interested in it, of course. Yeah. And like I said, if no one's in the chat, I might be using, when I'm talking to the void as I am right now, I might be using some science just to fill the void, just to kind of create some interesting space there, or potentially interesting space. What else did I want to mention before I make that announcement? There was one more other thing, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, right. So today, yeah, it's not so much science involved because Taco Tuesdays, they're called Let's Talk About It Tuesdays on purpose. It's just supposed to be like a chill chat about anything, nothing really formal. I don't have that share screen like we do in Science Fridays. This screen right here, right, where I can show, that's the playlist right now, where I can show, you know, things that we might be interested in scientifically speaking. I might show what we're searching on the internet for searching for theories or searching for science. Oh, one guy's here. Oh, welcome. I am not alone. I'm not speaking to the void today. Imagine the gym right now. What? Which gym? Oh, I'm at the gym. Why'd I read imagine? Whoa, okay, my eyes are tired. Like I said, stream, I've had quite the long day. Anyway, yeah, it's been a really long day. It started like 6:30 in the morning, and I already started working since then. I've had to work all the way up until starting this stream, and after I end this stream, I have to keep working. Anyway, so Talk About It Tuesdays are supposed to be about chatting. And today we're just going to be chatting about our addictions in a low-key sense. Now, if we do want to hear some science, I can maybe bring some in. Today's topic I'm not an expert in. I just want to put that out there right now. I'll keep mentioning that throughout the stream if we're going to get into scientific things, saying, yeah, I'm not an expert on this. But we can go to, yeah, I read it now. I'm at the gym. Yeah, I messed that up. I don't know why I read imagine. And I was like reading like, imagine the gym right now, Havana? I was like, what kind of a random statement? But no. Yeah. So awesome. That's awesome you're at the gym. Have fun at the gym. And let me actually bring up that Discord. So let me see. So basically, I do want to mention today's topic was a suggestion through SPS here, actually. SPS gave us a suggestion for today's topic. And you were saying... So some questions that I was asked was, can we get addicted to negative emotions? Why and how? Like, can we be, why can't I talk? I've talked so much today. I think that's why. Actually, I just realized I had to teach today, and the classes I have to teach are 3 hours long. So it's 3 hours worth of talking. Whew. And I had to do a training today because my experiment's launching this Friday. I'm launching an experiment, so I had to train my research assistants on how to run the experiment today, and there was a lot of talking. I think that's why. Man, so much talking stacked today. Yikes-a-roni pepperoni. Anyway, back to the topic. So the questions were, can we get addicted to negative emotions? Why and how? Those are always great questions in the eyes of science. Today we're going to discuss things on a more low-key, like I said. We'll bring in science where need be or if people are really curious, but we're just going to talk about it from our own experiences. That's the point of Taco Tuesday, is we're all humans. Therefore, we all do have a sample size of 1, and that's a valid data point, 1. It's not valid to make causal conclusions to generalize to populations, no. But it is cool if you want to generalize to yourself, that's more than enough, right? You have 100% of the population, and so we can use ourselves as kind of our own sample size to understand things about ourselves, if you will, and that's more valid. So today we're going to keep it on that level. We're going to talk about maybe our individual experiences, but again, we can bring scientific theory if there's some cool points to bring that in. I'm not sure. We'll find out. And the other part was, can we be addicted to something like stress? That one's an interesting one. I already want to begin with a little bit of stress pathways of the brain, but we're not going to dive so deep into that. Cool. Where do we begin? Now, SPS, are you able to chat with us, or do you, or no? You just we're gonna be chilling and listening. Give a second for the stream to catch up there. In the meantime, while let's see if he might be in the middle of doing something in the gym too. In the meantime, while we wait for that response, hopefully it comes through. The announcement. So I will not be able to stream, unfortunately, but for good reasons. This is actually a very fortunate event here. I will not be able to stream this Friday. Kinda. Okay. Okay. And I'll just be talking to the void, and I guess you can tap in, or you can touch base every now and then. So this Friday, I will not be able to stream, including next Tuesday and the Friday after that. So 2 Science Fridays. For the next 2 Science Fridays, I will not be here, and for the next Taco Tuesday, just 1, I will not be here. And that is because I am leaving town to go get married. So that's the little announcement. That's the reason why it's not bad that I'm not streaming this next week and a half. But yeah, I'm gonna go get married, so I got to go. I'm not gonna be streaming that week. So just a heads up. I think I'll just put a reminder on Twitter. That way, if anyone comes to the page, this is gonna be cool. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. I went to the right spot. Please tell me I'm on the. Right now you can't. I know you're probably not seeing anything. Oh no, the Warframe plugin is still on the channel. I just realized it. Let's get rid of that right now. Live on TV. Editing of the channel. I don't know if I have to restart the channel. Hopefully. Let's see if that gets rid of it for some reason while it's live. I don't know. I always forget to remove that plugin when I go to other things aside from Warframe. Hey, it worked. Okay, cool. Live on national television. I guess it's international television because anyone from anywhere could be accessing this. I don't know. Anyway, what I'm going to bring up here is, there you are. Let's put that over here. How do I hide this chat? There we go. So I have this mode. So on my channel, this is where I'm gonna try to show this every stream. That way people are kind of used to this. If people are recurring viewers, there's this Twitter feed right here, and on this Twitter feed, I'm just posting when I'm streaming and when I'm not, and so it just is a quick way to be like, oh, is he gonna actually stream today or not? And so here I'm just gonna post the reminder that no, I will not be streaming for the next 3 sessions, meaning this Science Friday I won't be here, the next Taco Tuesday won't be here, and the next Science Friday won't be here. But then the Taco Tuesday after that I will be here, so I'm just missing 3 streams. So not too big, and I'm missing those because getting married. So that's gonna be fun. Getting married in a different country. Let's get back to Taco Tuesday. Okay, so today we're talking about addictions, and it's an interesting one. So I'm just gonna mention again, I'm not studying this as a neuroscientist or anything like that. Today's a Taco Tuesday, so we're gonna chat about it from our just personal experiences. We're gonna use that sample size of one and just talk about ourselves in that sense. So hopefully anyone listening, you can join in. You know, throw in a comment here and there, participate in the chat. I more than encourage that in this chat. That's why it's also just chatting and not the science stream or whatever. The science stream is a little bit different, the Science Fridays. So, addictions. Yeah, it's interesting. The thing it was prompted by the questions, and the questions were, I'm gonna copy paste them into our chat here so I can have them in front of me. Can we get addicted to negative emotions? And I'm like, this is anyone's thoughts. Start chiming in. Yes, no, maybe, depends, context. What does addiction even mean? Like, does doing something repetitive over and over again mean you're addicted? Should we look up the definition of addiction? I don't know. I want to let the stream take control, but obviously, I can take control if that needs to be. Can we get addicted to something like stress? So that's the one that's causing me right now, because right now I'm just being honest with you all stream. I'm extremely stressed right now. Just as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I just launched a study for my dissertation, so there's a lot writing on that. I need it to be executed nicely, so there's still some. I was running it today. I was test piloting it myself, and I encountered some errors in my paradigm, so I have to go into the lab tomorrow and continue to work on it. But I'm leaving on Thursday, so there's this big time crunch on me. I'm also still doing a lot of wedding preparation stuff, so I am very stressed. So that whole can we be addicted to something like stress? From a neurological pathway, that's also an interesting question. Or from like from a neuroscience approach, it's an interesting question because it doesn't really function that way, but I don't fully understand it either. Let's see. So responses, I feel like we can somehow. So can we get addicted to negative emotions? See, I think one thing I might have to do really quick, it's not super Taco Tuesday of us to do this, just a hunch, but we're gonna start. I always like to do this with a lot of topics for discussion. Is we're just gonna set Okay, let me show you all what I'm talking about. We're gonna set a definition for ourselves. That way, it sets up like a baseline on which we can all agree. It makes it easy to have conversations with people when you set some sort of like neutral baseline. Like this is what we all agree as the definition of the term we're talking about. Correct? Awesome. So let's look up what we actually mean by addiction. Because what I mentioned is like, well, do you consider it an addiction if you do something every day like the same way? I don't think it's an addiction. To me, addiction has some component that has kind of like the lack that you have control over it. That to me is what addiction is. But we can find maybe a definition according to the DSM or according to some standardized method or resource that we can find and kind of agree on that definition and then talk about it in reference to that definition. So that's kind of a way, chat, that, I mean, we're kind of bringing in a little bit of the logic of science, but we're not doing science right now. So this isn't Science Friday. This is just a method of logic, right? What is the true meaning? People ask. So because I Googled addiction, that's all I Googled was I put in Google. Oh, you can't see it. Let's see. Yeah, I just Googled addiction, and then addiction treatment centers came up, so that didn't work. So then I just went to this like little tab in Google and says, what is the true meaning of addiction? Let's see what this says. So this is medicalnewstoday.com. I don't really like that as their source, but let's see what they say first. Addiction is an inability, that's the lack of control. That was just my perception. That inability to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior, even though it is causing psychological and physical harm. The term addiction does not only refer to dependence on substances such as heroin or cocaine. Yeah, like you can be addicted to gambling, you can be addicted to games, addicted to behavior, right? Engaging in a certain behavior. But let's find another. We want definition of. Wikipedia is a decent place to. Ooh, we have APA. That's nice. Ooh, we got NIH, the National Institute for Health. That's another pretty good resource. We found 2 good resources. Now we're going to read 3 resources. That's called cross-referencing. We're going to cross-check or cross-checking, right? We're going to cross-reference to multiple independent, presumably where they're independent resources. If all 3 of these are saying kind of the same thing, we can start to have the assumption that what we're reading is probably not fake news, right? So I mentioned this because I had a stream recently talking a little bit about there's so much information out there. There's so much data out there on the internet. And I keep seeing memes out there about like we're in the age of information, yet no one wants to use it. That's false. We're not in the age of information. Yeah, the internet has a lot of information, but it has so much disinformation at the same time. It's a jungle out there. It's not so easy to navigate the internet and find 100% data supported like evidence and things like that. It's not so straightforward. It's quite hard actually to just randomly encounter a lot of empirical evidence and be able to understand it too. Be able to understand all the data and the statistics. You need to take courses and all of that stuff. And so actually it's rather hard, I would say, to get to have that full understanding of a lot of the information that's accessible online. I wouldn't say the average person is using it in that sense. And so anyway, so I mentioned this as kind of like, this is kind of a logic that you can learn both in being in grad school, but just kind of through any sort of, I don't know, education setting of logical arguments, like building logical arguments. Because something you do a lot in science is when you're like posing a new study or you're writing about the science, you're citing a lot of different articles. So you're using a lot of different sources. So you kind of learn to navigate the internet that way. Here, that's why I go spouting APA and NIH, because I'm used to like going to places that have already that are pretty valid and reliable. My throat is very dry, and no one's making me hydrate lately, so that's interesting. Watch me get it very soon. Once I know SPS ran, I was like, ooh boy! Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna slap that button 20 times. And he probably wasn't saying that. Now he probably is. Anyway, so that's why I'm familiar with those. Why I immediately sound like, ooh, I'm familiar with those. So let's go read about these really quick, and then let's proceed to chatting about addictions. Addiction is a chronic disorder with biological. There it is. There it is. Holy cow. All right. Cheers. Oh my goodness. That's great. All right, so anyway, we're looking at the American Psychological Association, so the APA. So they're a pretty big organization that has a lot of great publications out of them and a lot of good stuff that they've provided to society, especially in the US. So this is just one source, and then we're going to just check it against other sources, because if they start to conflict, then we start to question it. We can start to question the validity of this information. So addiction is a chronic disorder with biological, psychological, social, and environmental factors influence its development and maintenance. About half the risk addictions is genetic. Okay, so it's getting a little bit too in depth into that definition. So let's go. I want to take a step back. I don't want to get into mechanisms of addiction. We're just trying to establish a baseline understanding of what is addiction. Oh, this is cool. Okay, this is an interesting little snippet. This is from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, from the NIH, the National Institute of Health. Oh, you can't really read that. Let's drag that down. So the National Institute of Health right there. That's what I was saying. The NIH is another really big organization that actually provides a lot of funding for a lot of research, and a lot of research is empirical and peer-reviewed and all of that. So this is very a lot of. I can't vouch for absolutely everything from the NIH, but of my experience with NIH, the National Institute of Health, is that it's very objective work coming out. So a lot of this is going to be data-driven. empirically driven. Empirical meaning like experiments were conducted to be able to say certain statements. So you know that this isn't going to be very much. The likelihood of this being fake news is incredibly low. And if this kind of agrees with that APA, then you know that the probability of that being fake news is even lower. So we're just reducing. That's all we're doing by cross-referencing, right? That's the purpose of it. It's not just to make you do extra work. It's what you're doing is you're reducing the probability that it is fake news, because the more sources I use, right? Like the more, like if they were all somehow in on it, colluding, like they're all this conspiracy, the more sources there is, the more obscure, the more like crazy this conspiracy is getting. And so that's what we're saying the probability that this is all fake news is getting lower, is because the probability that this is all driven by one organization is incredibly low. So this kind of gives us the confidence in our searches. So anyway, let's get back to our search of what does addiction mean. But I thought this snippet was actually a little bit interesting about this addiction science. So I stumbled upon probably something that's not going to define addiction for us, but I think this is worth a little bit of a read real quick for the audience. Since today's topic is addictions, so why not? Let's read about this. Let's talk about it. Many people don't understand why or how other people become addicted to drugs. They may mistakenly think that those who use drugs lack moral principles or willpower, and that they could stop their drug use simply by choosing to. In reality, drug addiction is a complex disease, and quitting usually takes more than good intentions or a strong will. So I think that is where it's agreeing. That is where sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I have to stop it. That is where that when the APA were reading about that, it was mentioning there's biological, genetic, environmental factors, right? Those are the things that are this complex disease, right? It can come from genetics, but the environment can also influence one to try to take drugs. Sorry, this is going to turn a little bit Science Friday, but I just have to mention the scientific paradigm. When you put animal models under stressful conditions, for example, this is an example of how an environment can drive people to be using these drugs. That's one way of coping with a stressful environment that the brain has deemed, this is out of my control. I can't do anything about this. Because when the challenge is seen as, when the stress is seen as, oh, I can handle this, your body actually engages in positive ways with it. This is actually called, I'm going to write this down. Man, this is becoming Science Friday. I'm not going to apologize because I love science, so welcome to this channel. Welcome to the GG channel, Gaming Grad. You got a grad as a pilot here. So this is called the bio. I don't want to misname it. Is it the biopsychological? I think it's the bio. It wouldn't be the psychobiological. Yeah, it's gonna be the biopsychological model of challenge and threat. So this is a cool model coming from a social psychologist, cognitive psychologist. Actually, I met him in person, talked with him. He's really interesting guy. He did a lot for research. Jim Blaskovich is the researcher there. He's gotten a lot of rewards for his work. But anyway, so he tested this model out, and in this model he's describing. Man, we're getting really off topic, but this. I'm gonna talk about this model real quick, and then we'll get back to this addiction science. So in this model, he describes different circumstances under which your body might respond differently to stress. So if a stress, when you're kind of approaching the stressor, the thing, and by stressor I mean the thing that produces the stress that you are feeling. If that stressor is, you deem it as, I can't control it, there's nothing I can do, or I'm unprepared for this. So if you've ever had to give like a speech or something, and you didn't prepare, or you had to take a test and you didn't really study, you're going to experience a negative type of impact to the body. And by that it means this is called a threat. And so the biopsychological model of challenge and threat, this is that threat component here. And so by threat, what this means is, in your cardiovascular system, then this means like your heart, your veins, your arteries, all of that, everything that gets your blood moving and delivering oxygen where it needs to be delivered, and all the muscles involved, of doing that. So that your cardiovascular system tends to constrict under these things, meaning your blood doesn't flow as freely, so your brain might not get as well oxygenated as it could be when you're not experiencing this threat. So this is kind of causes you to freeze up a little bit more in these circumstances, to maybe your memory might take a little bit of a hit there as well. And so but if you feel prepared, if you actually feel like, ooh, this is going to be my turn, my time to show success, my time to shine, so to speak. So because you prepared, you did everything you needed to, you did it to the best of your ability, then the body engages in this like augmentation of your performance. Your veins actually dilate. It's called vasodilation. So that means they open up. That allows better blood flow to both the muscles or wherever blood is needed, right? If you're needing the brain, like the body is able to redirect more blood that way, so it can provide the oxygen that the cells need. And so you'll get vasodilation when you're perceiving the stressor as a challenge. And so this model is called the biopsychological model of challenge and threat. It's a very cool model. Check it out on your free time if you feel like it. If you read it and you feel like the read went way over your head, come back to this channel. Let's chat about it. I'm happy to translate anything. When I say translates, because statistics can, in a way, be its own language, and I'm happy to talk about it. I've already talked to the scientist about this. I learned from him. I learned about his model from him himself. So it's very cool work. He's done other very cool work as well. But I just wanted to mention that. So stress. So let's tie that back to kind of the stress. When I was mentioning animal models, you put them under stress, and if they kind of feel like it's a threat, not a challenge, right? There's no way of really coping with that over long periods of time. This is called chronic stress. So they might start developing depression. One hallmark of depression, I'm going to type this into the chat here, is called anhedonia. Anhedonia is the inability to feel pleasure. That's just one symptom of depression. If you have that, doesn't mean you have depression. You have to like line up with 17 or 18 or 19. I don't know how many other symptoms. I'm not a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist, so none of what I say is able to be diagnostic of any sort of way. Like, you can't take what I'm saying right now and diagnose yourself. Don't do that. You always go to a professional. But this is one of the classic symptoms of depression from a research standpoint, is anhedonia. And so when you chronically stress out, for example, rats, they don't really seek out the reward as much. And reward being like a sugar, like something sweet that they used to like. They might like it a lot. In humans, it can be maybe the desire for money, maybe the desire for work, or the desire for X, Y, and Z chocolate. You know, maybe you like chocolate, and now after chronic stress, you just don't find pleasure in it anymore, or you just don't like things you used to like anymore. That's an example of anhedonia. And so something that people can turn to, right? Rats not so much, because they're not as advanced as we are, but something that they can turn to, and the rats do in the lab, in the lab where the researchers are manipulating this, is drugs to give them back that feeling of reward, right? They've lost that connection to reward, and reward in this case also means pleasure, the ability to feel pleasure. So reward is another way of scientifically calling pleasure, because we don't want to right now confuse. I know sometimes people, when you're talking about pleasure outside the context of the lab, people can sometimes, they'll say, "Oh, I know what you mean by pleasure," and they try to bring in some sexual ideologies or something like that. That's not what we mean here. It just means that you're feeling a reward. You're feeling a positive thing after a certain behavior or after a certain food or something like that. Eating food is a reward that's a pleasure for the body, right? It satiates, it calms down that hunger signal. You eat it, and then because you have the hunger signal, it starts to hurt a little bit. You start to get cranky. A lot of your emotions start to change. Then you eat, and then your emotions calm down. You can regulate. You're better at regulating your emotions after you've eaten, and your stomach doesn't hurt anymore. So all of that is what is considered kind of like pleasure, right? That's a positive emotion for the body to feel. So that's a pleasure. That's a reward. And so anhedonia is kind of the inability to feel that. So some people might turn to drugs, because those are a lot of drugs promote a lot of like this huge rush of these positive inducing emotion molecules in the brain. And so doing this then can give you that feeling of reward again, and you can kind of feel like your life is complete again. So this is one possible reason why some people might turn to drugs, for example, that we can talk about when it comes to this little snippet saying, drug addiction is a complex disease. But this one's really on drug addiction, and we're not really going to be focusing too much on drug addiction. The questions, I think, really stemmed from a behavioral standpoint. Can you be addicted to negative emotions? Can you be addicted to stress? So far, what is the baseline we've set for addiction? Let's look at WebMD addiction. I don't like WebMD that much, but what is this? Where's the definition? It's all clickbait. Okay, thanks. Oh, it was just taking me to the homepage. Okay, that looked like a really messy homepage. All right, well, we're not going there. All right, let's check Wikipedia real quick. Is a neuropsychological interesting disorder characterized by persistent use of a drug. Man, everyone goes to drugs immediately, despite substantial harm and adverse consequences. Okay, what about behavioral addiction? What's this disambiguation? No. Okay, here's behavioral addictions. Okay, so maybe we just got to keep reading a little bit. Repetitive drug use often alters brain function in ways that perpetuate craving and undermine self-control. This phenomenon, drugs reshaping brain function, has led to understanding of addiction and brain disorder. Yep. Classic hallmarks of addiction include compulsive engagement in rewarding stimuli. You see, reward. We just talked about that term. Ah, man, I'm glad we took that little detour now. Preoccupation with substance. Okay, where's the behavioral part? We're trying to get the behavioral. Examples of drug and behavioral addictions include alcohol use disorder, marijuana addiction, amphetamine addiction, cocaine addiction, nicotine addiction, opioid addiction, video game addiction, gambling addiction, and sexual addiction. So those last ones are the behavioral ones, video game addiction. So far, to answer those questions, we haven't seen addiction to stress and emotions, but it doesn't mean there isn't that. It can mean multiple things, right? Either we don't know yet, no one's actually done this in science, and that would actually make an interesting scientific experiment. Maybe we should write this down. Maybe we should start designing the experiment live on international television, and it would maybe find some cool stuff out. I don't know. I mean, we could. This is turning into a science Friday. I was gonna say we could Google. Maybe we should leave this. I was gonna say we could start Googling to Google Scholar. And the funny thing is, I was just teaching a class today on the steps to finding this type of information. Anyway, so the only behavioral addiction recognized by the DSM-5 and the ICD-10 is gambling addiction. So, wow, they don't even recognize video addiction and sexual addiction. Interesting. All right, let's get back to that Taco Tuesday frame. So let's get back to chatting because I don't want to turn this into Science Friday. So, the baseline. Let's just go with the baseline of. Oh wait, we didn't finish off the baseline. Let me read it again. I liked one of these definitions up here. An ability to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior even though it is causing psychological and or physical harm. So that's going to be our baseline. Let's put that. I just don't like I don't like the source so much, but after having read the Wikipedia article, the NIH, and the APA, I think we have a pretty good idea of what addiction, of a definition for addiction, but not what addiction is. That's not what I'm saying. We're just we're beginning to understand what we mean by addiction. We're not experts at all, not even close, on what addiction actually is, the causes, and all of that. We're just gonna have a little chat, all right, chat? So I'm putting that here. We'll put the citation just so we are clear of where everything is coming from. So again, chat, I'm not in love with the citation, but I think this is a pretty good definition. I like the definition for the concept that we were talking about, and the concept's addiction. So I think it does a pretty good job at capturing what we were understanding for addiction, like what addiction is. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm not here to diagnose. We're here to just chat about it. What do we think about it? Well, how do we feel about it as well? Okay, so let's go back to that. Can we get addicted to negative emotions? So here's the thing I want to chat about with that one. I think yes, I think there is a possibility of doing this, but there's a mediator. And a mediator, man, Science Friday time. What a mediator is a variable that explains the relationship between two other variables. Without this variable, we wouldn't really understand why or how you can get addicted to those negative emotions. That's in comparison to something else called a moderator, and that just impacts the relationship between two variables. But anyway, let's get back to that mediator. So by this, let's just go back to English terms. This is what I mean by I'm happy to translate articles, because they're going to mention things like, so X mediated Y, And then you're gonna be like, I don't know what mediated means at all, and because like it means something in English, but it means something completely different in statistics. And so it means a particular statistical model, and so you have to understand what mediation means. And then they might say, oh, Z moderated W or something like that, or X moderated W in a certain way. Anyway, that's the type of stuff that if anyone reads a paper and is really confused by stuff, I'm super happy to chat about it. That's what I'm here for. Anyway, shoot, now I lost my train of thought here. Let me take a sip of water to see if we can regain that train of thought. So the mediator of can you get addicted to negative emotions? So I think from my personal experience, again, this isn't based on science. This isn't a professional opinion at all. I'm not basing this on evidence. I'm just basing this on kind of what I think might be going on. Again, this is just my opinion here. Just so we can have a conversation, right? Just so we can talk about this. Is that because when you have negative emotions, if you are an expressive person, so you might have a moderator there of how expressive you are. So the more expressive you are, the greater effect you might see. In ways of that, it garnishes attention, right? That gets support and care from people, and that is a reward. That's a reward to the body, like not to the body, but to us as social human beings. Is social contact. We need that. We crave it, even though some people might feel like they don't. It is important to be in groups. So far, that's what I've understood about the brain. So parts of what I'm talking about now are based on things I do know. That's why I'm extrapolating here about things I don't know. I have that ability because this is what education provides, right? We're able to extrapolate using what we do know. And so just based on the tenets of kind of being like mammals that are social mammals, we are social animals. So we having social support has been shown to provide so many benefits to both health and performance, and like in performance, I mean like academic performance, for example, but also performance in sports and performance in a lot of things. Coping with stress, coping with negative events, all that type of stuff. So if experiencing negative emotions causes you to be expressive of said emotions, then that might actually get you more attention. The more attention you get, the better you feel at the end. So you might engage in this weird cycle where you're addicted to that end reward, right? And so you can get it because, right, we can get addicted to things because let's take a step back. When we're getting addicted to behaviors, so a lot of this was drugs, and I think that one's more straightforward of how the addiction forms, right? We take a drug that produces this massive chemical change in our brain, and then we just all the brain wants to do is feel that again the next day. So it craves it so much it causes your body to go into a weird funk that's called your withdrawal symptoms until you get that again. And your brain does adapt over time, so eventually you have to give it a higher dose. It is a very adaptive brain. It's a very plastic organ you have in here. By plastic in neuroscience, we mean ability to be shaped. That's what plastic really means, right? That's why we call what everyone knows as plastic, that material. It's called that because it's able to be shaped into really anything we want. So your brain is plastic in that sense, and so it adapts to drugs over time. That's why you got to increase the dosage over time. And that's where people will sometimes, very unfortunately, very tragically, die from overdosing because the rest of your body hits a limit, right? Your brain might keep adapting, and then your brain also has a limit. So you just keep adapting, and so to get the next high, you need more, and people will hit that limit, and it's unfortunate when that happens. A lot of times you can save them if you get them on time, but sometimes, no one's around. Anyway, so going back to behavioral side, so the drug side is a little bit straightforward of how we can see, we can see the chemical pathways of how an addiction is created. Behavioral, though, well, what we're really talking about is a reward, right? That something is rewarding to you, and it becomes that you need to engage in this behavior to get that reward, so much so that it's kind of causing you an inability to function. That's causing psychological or physical harm. So, like if you're, for example, like a behavioral addiction that can cause you psychological and physical harm would be something that keeps you from going to work, and eventually you just get fired, and then you can't feed yourself. That's a lot of harm that's going to come your way, and you're willing to do that for whatever your addiction is or for whatever the behavior is. That would be kind of classified as as the behavioral addiction. That's kind of what we're landing on using this term right here. Addiction is an inability to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior even though it is causing psychological and physical harm. And so to me, can you be addicted to negative emotions? Addicted to them themselves, to me, from a neurological or a neuroscientific standpoint, doesn't really make sense because the brain doesn't see reward from an objective standpoint. Now, there can be different, from an objective standpoint, I mean, like, I'm just thinking about the average brain. There might be brains and variations in the way brains approach emotions, but it typically tends to seek out to feel good, not bad. And so I just don't see any sort of neuro pathway that would provide a reason for you to seek out negative emotion for the sake of feeling negative. But your brain might notice, every time we feel negative, we get this positive reinforcement from others. Then it might reinforce that pathway that, like, okay, then start feeling negative, start feeling negative, start feeling negative. And that can be detrimental to your health, of course, because feeling negative will start doing impact to other parts of the brain over time. So that can be an addiction right there. But I think that would be driven by the reward side of things. That's just my 2 cents. That's just my opinion. Thoughts from you all are more than welcome. I'm going to take a little bit of time, let the chat catch up, and let's hear some thoughts if there are any. If not, we'll continue on talking a little bit about addictions. What are we addicted to? Grapes. I'm eating grapes right now. All right. I do like, while I'm going to continue to let the chat see if they're still typing, or if anyone's typing, or if anyone wants to contribute to this conversation. I'm going to keep you still have a little bit more time. I want to comment. I like that. It took me a while to make a lot of badges, and it's been cool streaming through all this time because I saw the evolution of my own badge. I had to start out as a beginner and had my bronze badge, and you go evolving. Like, I think I set up bronze, silver, gold, and then it goes to diamond and platinum, and then jade or something. And I know actually jade's not worth as much as some of those, like platinum. But then it goes to jade or something, and the plaques have an atom, and then it's 2 atoms together, and then it forms a molecule, then a bigger molecule, then a whole benzene ring. And it took me some work, and eventually, so like the subtle message there is, as you go progressing in these ranks, your molecule's building more and more, and you end up with this party hat, because we're zooming out of the hat, right? If we zoomed in all the way, there'd be 1 atom, and as we take a step out, we're seeing the party hat. And it's also purple because the shark party theme. So it's been cool seeing my badge evolve all the way up to the final form, which is the party hat. Yes, we are the shark party. So you can have the hat too. I actually don't know how you get I forgot how you get these badges though. I honestly forgot. I think you have to subscribe. So actually, I don't want to encourage that. I don't want anyone to feel like they need to pay for this channel. Please don't. Please don't. I want this to be seen as a completely accessible to anybody. No need to pay anything. No paywalls. No encouragement. No special treatment for donating. Nothing like that. I want this to just be like a nice open line for communicating anything really. But sometimes based on science, because that's Science Friday. All right, last scrape, and then we're going to go back to talking about our addictions. I look down, I have my to-do list, and there's just so much. There's so much stream. Holy cow. Anyway, let's go to that other question really quick. So we've already discussed a little bit. Can we get addicted to negative emotions? Well, at least I discussed my opinion on it. From a personal standpoint, I don't know. Like, I adopted, but I don't have too much. because I'm trying to remember what I felt like as a teenager. Because I was gonna say from a personal standpoint. So I kind of gave my answer to the can we get addicted to negative emotions. I kind of gave a pseudoscientific explanation there. Some extrapolation was involved, but some actual evidence or evidence-based science was involved. But from a personal standpoint, because this is a Let's Talk About It Tuesday, so let's talk about ourselves too. Um, I'm trying to remember my teenage years because I do know that as I've matured over time, as I've lived life, as I continue to mature, I'm not fully matured yet. As I continue, right, what I've learned in life is like I know I used to spend a lot of time being like involved with negative emotions, and then I finally realized that a lot of the time I was brooding like by myself, and then I just came to realize like it doesn't really it only affects me, right? Um, and there's many reasons why I would be brooding, like whether I got in a fight with an ex-girlfriend or something, or some friend said something and it offended me or whatever, and I'm like sitting there in the corner like, oh, they should have blah blah blah, instead of facing the problems, which is one way to resolve your angers. I would just swallow it and be kind of brooding on these negative emotions. And so something I kind of eventually learned is like that's not good for me because like I'm not having fun. And if one thing I want to maximize in life, right, in our short lifespans that we have, is like why spend our time, our waking moments, our living life, right? Why spend it feeling negative when there are things you can do? There's sometimes that things are out of control and you're gonna feel negative, and that's normal, natural, and we should, because you can't appreciate a sunny day without a rainy day, right? And that's just part of the human experience, and it does connect you to people as well to be experiencing. So it's not always negative to be feeling negative. I'm not saying that. We're not going to try to avoid it 100% of the time. That's not healthy either. But on a day-to-day basis, what's the point? If you can help it, on the days that you can help it, what's the point of being negative? I don't really see the point. It first of all costs you energy, which like if our goal is to improve our lives, which hopefully that it's your goal, you want to be spending that towards the improvement of your life every day, the improvement of something, whether it's productive or not doesn't really matter, but maybe getting better at an instrument, getting better at gaming, whatever. But typically that tends to give our brain a reward, is that we're seeing improvement whatever we're doing. Oh man, these grapes are really good. I need to take another bite. Also, if anyone has any comments, they're more than welcome. So, I was learning this across time. I was also trying to remember where I left off. I was learning this across time of like, so why spend so much time, like why spend my days purposely? Because sometimes as a teenager, I feel like I would be kind of in that negative route of thinking, and I don't know if I did it on purpose or not. I can't really remember, because like now I'm in a whole different line of thinking, because I've kind of you have to practice at this as for certain types of mentalities. You do have to practice like you do exercise a muscle. There's certain types of mentalities that if you want to develop, or habits that if you want to develop, you have to practice it, and you have to be a little bit disciplined about it. And so it costed me a little bit of work, but that was the type of mentality I took on. I was like, why be spending my energy and time feeling negative if I can help it? I'm going to try to be positive about things. I'm going to try to take everything positively. Also, what helped me a lot was learning about psychological theory, like fundamental attribution error and all these other things that helped me just kind of understand the world. But aside from that, like why look at everything so negative? Okay, so someone cut me off, but they could be like, bleeding out or something on their way to the hospital. If I know that, of course I wouldn't be mad. I'd be like, yes, please take the spot. I don't have to envision, because I think a lot of us might jump to envisioning this jerk who doesn't care, that he's just maybe on his cell phone, or she, doesn't matter who you're envisioning, but they're on their cell phone, like, oh yeah, that's an ignorant person. Like that's what you might be thinking of the driver, and that's only going to impact you. It doesn't impact them. It's not going to make them change their behavior. It's not going to make anyone else change their behavior, just you. It's only going to increase your blood pressure, only going to increase your negative emotions, make you stressed. That's not something like, why experience that when you can avoid that altogether and just continue to like, yeah, they cut me off, and notice the reality. Okay, they cut you off. What? They made you lose half of a second. Okay, if they're doing it over and over again, then obviously, like I said, we're not going to bring up extreme cases. Like usually when you get cut off, it's like, yeah, they do it, and then okay, they're going to make you lose a little bit of velocity. Oh, okay. It's not the end of the world. And so just taking that mentality for me, that's just what I've done. I'm not saying it's the right way, but that's what I've done. So I'm trying to remember, because I do remember being a teenager, and I do remember um, being way more unstable than I am right now, for example, in terms of like my control over emotions or the emotions I was feeling. And one of those things that I learned or kind of matured over time, if you will, is that kind of mentality is why stay negative when I can be positive. So what I'm trying to remember from personal experience is like I do feel like I was attracted to negative emotions in that way, but now being on the other side of things, if you will, right, being on the other side of the fence, now having like gone through my teen years and my 20s, and I'm not saying I faced everything already, but I kind of having faced all those things and reflecting on my life, I can't tell if it was because some of my behaviors were driven by unconscious motivations. Because now that I've studied motivations, both implicit and explicit, and we've talked about biases, right? Implicit and explicit biases on this channel. So motivations are very similar in that sense that you have implicit and explicit. Implicit means you're unaware of some of those of the process that's happening. So maybe I was unaware that the end result is what I really liked, and so I was attracted to the immediate behavior, which was feeling sad, not noticing that the real reason I wanted to be feeling sad so much is because it garnered so much attention from people. Because I did have a very supportive family. I did have a lot of supportive people around me. And so I don't know if that was the case. Maybe someone, if all of you have your personal experiences, I'm happy to hear about them. That's what Tuesday is about. You don't have to stress about, be like, I can't chat with him because I don't know science. That doesn't matter today. We're not talking science. We're talking about our personal experiences. Therefore, you're the expert there and no one else is because it's your sample size of one. You have access to your own data. We do not. I do apologize a little bit for having to eat some grapes on the stream. I'm just going to be a little honest timeout for the stream. I haven't had a chance to eat or take a break today since like 6 in the morning. It's been back to back so much stuff. It's madness. So like my tummy is growling at me. All right. Any chats or any comments? Chat. Any comments, thoughts, opinions, experiences? I'm happy to hear them. If not, I don't think I fully addressed. Can we be addicted to something like stress? So I'm going to give it another 30 seconds for anyone, just to give opportunity to anybody that wants to drop something in the chat. Grapes are so good. I had something to mention, but before we move on to that topic. Oh yeah, I also want to say that I think by now you might have noticed I haven't had time to make upgrades to the channel. It's not that I feel like the channel needs them. I'm quite happy with the way it's looking right now. I know it's very amateur and I don't have very fancy schmancy everythings, but I'm still happy with where it's at. I hope. Ooh, there's a hydrate. I hope you all, are liking it too, the quality of it. I like I said, I have dreams for this channel. I have all these ideas of ways of making it be looking quite, at least from my opinion, it would look really cool. There's some animations I would love to have. I think they would be hilarious. I have this, people who know me, you know my sense of humor. I would do really ridiculous things with my channel if I had two things, the time and the know-how. Unfortunately, I do not. And one of those things I would do, which would be a quality of life measure for the stream, is that text to voice, right? Or voice, yeah, text to voice. That way when people make chats, anyone that's just sitting there listening to this podcast style, you don't have to actually see the stream. I would love to help you all so much. So for now, what I'm trying to do, just to aid you all, for those that are just listening, and I know the drink, I know I have to take it, but for those that are just listening, first of all, I appreciate it, thank you. And two is I'm just trying to read out the comments. So with that being said as well, if you don't want me to read your comments out loud, tell me, but you are putting a comment onto a live stream. Just a heads up, like your comment's already going to be public in public space on the internet out there. Just a heads up. So I don't see why people would have so much problem with me reading out loud if they're already willing to write it down for the same public space. So just wanted to say that. I'm going to try to do my best for all of you people that listen to this and you're not necessarily just watching it. It said it's delicious and I'm grabbing a grape. Whoa. Drink of water. There you go. Thank you for that. Man, I gotta stream more often because that keeps me hydrated. Some days I am just not drinking enough water. All right, let's go to the second question, and then I'm gonna have to start wrapping it up because I still have some work to do and it's getting a little bit late for me. But I do want to talk about this question here. Can we be addicted to something like stress? That one to me, because I have again, I keep trying to say that, but this isn't Science Friday. But I've talked about a personal experience that wasn't scientific, so that's a Taco Tuesday. That's a Taco Tuesday signature moment, brought to you by Shark Party GG. Anyway, for that question, can you be addicted to stress? That one's tougher for me to try to keep some science out of it because I'm not a stress expert by any means. I'm not studying that currently, but I have studied it in the past. I've been part of research that has done it. I'm part of a publication. I didn't write the paper myself. I can't take credit for that. The only thing I can take credit for this publication, because I was gonna say I'm actually published with a paper that has the word stress in the title that was studying stress, where we ran a stress paradigm and looked at the effects on the brain, the hippocampus. But I didn't write the paper. That was totally somebody else, and they got first authorship, which they totally deserve. Of course they do. They did all the work. It's really hard to write one of those papers. Like, I've had to write papers now. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So running the entire experiment, I'm just happy that they put me as an author to begin with. So I'm already super grateful. So the cool thing is, yeah, that's the funny thing is, I'm published with under the science or the stress literature in neuroscience. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to be a little bit biased. We talked about bias in the past stream. I'm going to be a little bit biased with that, answering that question, because I do kind of understand the stress pathways. And to be addicted to something, if we're taking on that sort of reward pathway, and I also do understand the reward pathways because I did run a study and in my graduate degree. So that study with stress, I ran that as an undergraduate. But I did do another study, a different study, as a graduate on humans, not rat models this time. I did it with humans, and in that study, we were interested in looking at stigmatized identities, and we were trying to see does living a stigmatized identity equate to living like a chronic stress, and and we know from the literature that stress does impact reward processing. So we measured reward processing in the lab to see if living a stigmatized identity and being reminded of your stigma, being reminded of the stigma and what that means, does that induce a sort of stress? Does that tap into the chronic stress to produce these differences in behavior and in terms of reward behavior? So does it look like you have anhedonia or not? And anhedonia we discussed a little bit earlier. Hello, welcome. Cyto Architect, welcome. I see. This is cool. The bot, or I guess this is an update to Twitch. It didn't used to do this. So this is very cool. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. It's telling me your first time chat, or first time chat from this viewer. So maybe you viewed before and it's your first time chatting. But welcome. I don't mean to put you on the spot like that. But it's really cool because it never warned me about this. I've never gotten that warning that like, this is the first time chatting there. So that's kind of cool. It's a cool little statistic for me right off the bat. Okay, yeah, I think that's a newish feature. Wow. If you're just joining me, it's been a long day for me. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Shark Party, GG. The GG's for gaming grad. It's because, I started doing gaming streams again. But I am a graduate student, and it's been really busy in grad school. Yeah, I'm a potential troll alert. I guess I'm too naive of an outlook, too positive an outlook. I don't, yeah, I guess I should assume that, yeah, there's probably gonna be trolls from time to time, but if it happens, then we'll deal with it with that bridge, because I don't know. I just think some people are fun. Some of the trolls are funny. I just think when people come by, it's like, well, you probably clicked on the channel because maybe the title was interesting. So I just tend to just assume you're here to chat about some things. I don't know. Maybe my assumptions are way off, and I have to readjust my assumptions. But anyways, welcome. We're chatting today about our addictions. I'm not doing too much science today because it is a Taco Tuesday. I'm trying to differentiate, but I keep getting back to science. I'm trying to differentiate between Tuesdays and science. Those are or Friday science and Fridays because Fridays are my science Fridays. Because those are the 2 days I do fix streaming. I try to do them every single week. And Science Fridays, we do talk a lot of science. We do bring in articles. We bring in data-driven articles, and we talk about empirical theory and that type of stuff. Tuesdays it's supposed to be just a chat, so anyone can join. Because I just feel like Science Fridays, a lot of people, even though I get a lot of positive feedback from several people. I don't want to say from like a lot of people. It's not like this channel's like booming with a lot of people, but from the repetitive viewers, that they tend to be good streams. But what I kind of have come to understand is I think Science Fridays people just want to listen to them. Maybe there's not as much conversation there because if you're not studying it, maybe you feel like you can't contribute, which is false. You can always contribute your thoughts to it, and we can have a conversation about things. You can always ask questions too during Science Fridays, but that's also true to Tuesdays. But I want to try to make Tuesdays as approachable as possible for people to chat. That's why I'm not trying to bring in science. That way it doesn't set up this disproportionate, like, well, he's the expert, I'm not, so who am I to say this? No. Here, we're all talking about just like our personal lives and experiences with some of the topics. But so the cool thing about the 2 days is sometimes we can take the topic, talk about it on Tuesday, and then bring in the science on Friday, so we can talk about the neurochemical pathways of addiction. But today we're talking about ourselves. We can talk about science. It's not like we're limited, but I just want to keep reminding the stream that welcome. I'm like you're more than welcome to chat about anything really. I like talking about brains. Most people can name more Pokemon than they can name brain pieces, though. Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was gonna say probably I was gonna try to start extrapolating why, and it's just it's probably from just a numbers approach. If you look at a statistical approach, more people are probably way more exposed to Pokemon than they are to knowledge about the brain, and so the likelihood that the average person is exposed to Pokemon versus the brain is probably higher for Pokemon. But yeah, the brain is cool. We've had streams about the brain and showed some diagrams. We go to the sharing mode stream. Now let me bring up a brain. So on Science Fridays, I use if you're completely new to this channel, I'm not sure. If you've already been on here in this channel, welcome back. But we use something similar to this. This is the screen for Science Fridays, and we talked about bias this past Friday. It was pretty cool. But this is my non themed page here. Yeah, we've talked about brains, so sometimes we'll bring it up, and it's fun. I'm of course not an expert on all parts of the brain, and I'm also not a neurosurgeon or anything like that. I'm not doing surgeries, but I have seen brains before me. I've had to dissect them. I've had to look at the cells underneath the microscope, or I guess I had looked at pictures of cells that were underneath the microscope. I didn't actually get to take those pictures. I didn't get to have that opportunity, but I was in the lab that had it. I just wasn't able to actually do it. What's your dissertation about? So my dissertation, I have mixed feelings about it. So where do I begin with this? So I'll just answer the question first, and then I'll say why I have mixed feelings. So the dissertation is very much looking at, it's very much social psychological. So that's, why is the camera, I just noticed my camera's flipped around. anyways, it's very much social psychological. So there's not much biology to this project, which is why I have mixed feelings about it, because I studied a lot of biology and I just really love incorporating both psychological models and biological models into my work and into the research questions. And I just enjoy learning about all those topics, because I also just enjoy learning about physics and chemistry as well. But I can't do four scientific fields in one go. So the most I can really merge is two, and biology and psychology merge nicely to produce neuroscience, or social neuroscience, I should say. I'm just trying to get this to do this. There we go. Okay. So my dissertation is all social psychological. There's no biology to it. That's mainly due to the pandemic. And we're interested in understanding something called the attribution process. I don't know if you're very familiar with psychological literature or psychological research, but it's called attribution, or the way you make like the way you understand other people. So how do I conclude that you are diligent, proud, like all these adjectives I can use to describe your personality? How do we conclude them? And more so, we're trying to understand under what context will you conclude specific things about people. So that's like the very broad topic of what I'm studying. I am studying the context, so just to refine it a little bit more for you, the context we're using to understand social interactions between people and understand how people are perceiving the people that are interacting before them. We're actually using police officers arresting civilians. Because policing, my research is taking place in the U.S., and right now policing in the U.S. is a really hot topic. It has been for several years, actually for decades now, and it continues to be a hot topic. So we're just using that as a relevant topic, but the real question behind it is we're trying to understand the cognitive steps people are taking to form conclusions about other people. My original dissertation design was so different, and it involved, I was going to get EKG measures, blood measures, saliva samples, look at enzymes. I was going to look at stress, actually. That was going to be one of the variables I was going to look at. I was going to look at the brain, possibly do MRI scans with it. That was a lot of neuroscience involved there. Then the pandemic came, and so obviously our labs were closed down for 2 years. And I was not allowed to do any sort of in-person studies, so I had to do it all online. And so social psychological, a lot of those studies you can do online. You don't need them to come in person, and because my clock was still ticking while the pandemic was going on. They did give me like extra years to graduate. It's not like they were mean like that, but my clock was still ticking nonetheless. Like I had to do something during the pandemic, so that's why I have mixed feelings about my dissertation. It's a very interesting one. It's very theory driven. And it's fun working on it, but my heart is like split with it because there's just no biology involved, and that's half of, like, as a researcher, half of my research identity, if you will, is biological. Like I need to be talking about cells and neurons and systems in the brain and like action potentials. I need to be talking all about that when I want to understand a behavior, because my goal, my background is kind of trying to understand brains and the behavior that they produce, both at the psychological level and the biological level. My lifetime goal would be to understand the brain at 4 different levels: the physics level, so at the atomic level, at the chemical level, at the biological level, and at the psychological level. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate the comment. Yeah, so that's just a little overview of my dissertation. I'm happy to go into more detail. Like we are, like, for example, one of the details of the dissertation. So as people are witnessing these interactions between policing and the civilian, and they're going to make their conclusions about the police, right? We are seeing if there's differences if there's any race interactions, right? So if the civilian is a certain race and the officers is a different race, how do people judge that officer versus if they were both happen to be the same race? Like, does that change people's conclusions? So we're also presenting those social dynamics into there. That's where the social component of this experiment is taking place, is because we're also looking at group dynamics. It's called like intergroup processes. Our lab does some studies on intergroup processes when we're trying to look at the psychological side of things, but a lot of our methodologies are neuroscientific. So we do brain scans, we do EKGs, EEGs, EKGs for obviously your cardio, but we also have an EEG chamber where we can hook people up to an EEG to get brainwave activity. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I've grown attached to this dissertation. It's like I'm not I'm not depressed or anything that like, oh, it's not the project I wanted to do and I wanted to propose, because I've grown attached. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm looking, if you're really, really interested, I'm gonna put this theory. If you're really, so this is kind of a cool theory, Kelly's covariation model. And let me read the comments. So, are you focusing on third-party observers of the interaction or the third-party observers? Yeah. So how does a third-party observer conclude what they're concluding? Because and the reason why right now we're interested in third-party observers because that's the majority of people when the news is happening, right? And there's an arrest, and then so one of the motivations for the study, by the way, I should probably mention this before getting to more nitty-gritty details. One of the motivations is that across social media, across like a lot of different platforms, you see that there's a division of people when this topic is brought up, and you see some parts of the society saying like, "Oh, the police are racist." They start from this assumption that all policing must be racist, and they want to like do a lot of things against the police. And on the other hand, you have people that start from the assumption police aren't racist. They just have a very difficult job, and they might be doing the best they can under difficult circumstances. And so you have these two segments of society that are kind of at each other's throats. And so we're just trying to understand these segments of society, which is the majority of people, right? The cop and the civilian, they're a smaller part of our population. It's also really important to understand, all those perceptions and with everyone involved. But we're trying to understand, okay, well, how are people perceiving these interactions? Like based on 10 seconds of behavior, people are concluding so much. And I'm going to post this too. This is turning into a Science Friday, but I don't care. This is fun. Fundamental attribution error. So this is something we've talked about on this channel before. I think it's still on my YouTube channel. You don't have to follow me on YouTube. The only reason I bring it up is if you wanted to hear a previous chat, I do actually save all the Science Fridays and Taco Tuesdays that I do. I do actually save them and upload them to a YouTube channel. So there's like a permanent or theoretically permanent archive because the Twitch is going to delete my videos after like a week or so or 30 days. I don't know. They go poof. And so I just put them on YouTube. So if anyone's like, oh man, you chatted about X, Y, or Z, I would love to hear about it. Well, it's on YouTube if you want to just hear that. Up to you. I mean, I'm always happy to re-talk about anything too. I can do that too. This isn't an ask for subscribes or anything like that. You don't have to subscribe. They're there. You can watch them. Go for it. And my YouTube is under the same name I have here, Shark Party GG. So fundamental attribution error has been one of those things I've brought up in this channel a lot. It became a theory, or it became a I guess it's a theory would be the appropriate term here. It became a theory very prominent to my current dissertation because it's dealing a lot with attribution. And so fundamental attribution error is this instance is this the tenet or the psychological tendency to overestimate personal factors for explaining someone's behavior. That you overestimate personal factors and underestimate environmental factors. And this is what I was mentioning when I tend to live my life where if someone cuts me off, I try to think of environmental factors because the fundamental attribution error shows a lot of evidence that people tend to overestimate personality factors over environmental factors. And by this I mean that let's just say you're calling your friend and your friend doesn't pick up. What a lot of people might conclude is, oh, my friend's ignoring me. They must hate me. They must be doing this. But it's a lot of personality things. Something about the person is causing the behavior. When in reality, most of the time, it's the environment keeping you from your phone. You're at work. It's somewhere that you can't pick up the phone because it would be inappropriate. You're driving. You're doing some activity that inhibits you from actually doing that. Yet people are concluding something about your personality. That's the fundamental attribution error, is that you're attributing something to the wrong cause. You're attributing it to the personality and not the environment, when in reality, it's the environment causing the behavior. And Kelly's covariation model, I put that in there as also just a background. If you are really interested in attribution literature, this is like a theory from the 1960s, became irrelevant, and now it's relevant again because of internet. We can talk about that later, why it became relevant again. Splitting. I do not know what splitting is. So something I'm just pulling up a while. I think Saito might be typing something. There it is. Okay, splitting, also called black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. Yeah, is a failure. Interesting. This is so cool. I love it when people come here. Yeah, I love it. Ah, yeah. I also actually use Wikipedia. I was actually about to share a Wikipedia article. I already have it pulled up with covariation model just to kind of show the tenets. I'm a grad student. I'm telling you all, and I teach classes and I tell my classes this as well. I'll teach my own classes and things. I'll say, hey, just so you know, maybe in previous classes or other places you've heard, don't use Wikipedia. You can't cite it. Although that's true for scientific articles, you cannot cite Wikipedia. It's not a bad starting point because the cool thing is it already tells you who's like the central person behind the notion that or whatever the concept is that you're studying. And guess what they put at the bottom? They put citations. I can grab these citations, go to Google Scholar, and find the valid academic article behind it. And I can actually demonstrate it right now. Google Scholar. I'll type that in. We'll click Google Scholar, and I can grab Kelly's covariation model, copy paste it, boom. And here we go. Now, obviously, the bad part here, here's some bad news, chat, is if you're not part of some organization that has access to a lot of these publishers that have paywalls, you're going to have to pay. And so that's the problem that I have right now with the current scientific community and the way it's not really the scientific community. They're trying to do something, but the way publishers and the broader public gets access to information is problematic in my eyes. One of the reasons why one of my motivations for this channel is to discuss science, especially science happening in the lab now, because just a heads up, when science is happening for any viewer that isn't part of research happens and then it takes like a couple years to get published, and then it takes a couple more years to finally reach the public, if it ever reaches the public. And so one of my motivations for Science Fridays is to expedite all that and say, hey, I attended, because every Friday I do attend a lecture. I attend some research guest comes and presents their research, and it's research they just ran. And so then I come to this channel and be like, hey, this is what's happening currently in science. If you're interested, like if anyone's interested, this is what's right now happening. This is what we're studying, and every Friday it's a different topic. Sometimes it might not be like this is currently what's doing, but this is what we currently know, or it might be other theories. But anyway, let's get back to this chat. But Wikipedia is not a valid academic resource. That is true. I have to just back that up. It is not valid by itself, but it produces valid results. Yeah. Yeah, like it produces very valid stuff. I really like Wikipedia. Like, here you go. Here's all your valid stuff that you need. So a lot of this stuff is valid itself, actually. I like to say this. Some articles, though, I will say, people do have the ability to edit. At least that's my knowledge. And so I don't fully 100% trust Wikipedia 100% of the time, like blindly trust it. But like I do know covariation model very well, and I see that they've cited it very nicely. So like I have very good confidence in this article, and this is Wikipedia. The only thing you can't do by scientific standards, if you're ever writing in a scientific course for psychology, you can't cite Wikipedia itself, but Wikipedia gives you the citations. Holy cow, thousands. Nice. That's awesome. You're doing a lot of searching. Hats off to you. I was gonna say I tip my hat to you, but I don't have a hat. So anyway, I just brought this up, the Kelly's covariation model, because we're talking about fundamental attribution error and how how do people come to conclusions about other people. Kelly's covariation model was this guy is like, I think these three things, consensus, distinctness, and consistency information, these three things are the three necessary things and the only things you really need to be able to predict what someone is going to judge another person as. Like, what are they're going to say their personality is like. So it might be an interesting read, might not. I'm going to lower this a little bit. There we go. It might be an interesting read, might not, but I just wanted to just share that with the chat here. It was average of 1 per day for 6 years. Holy cow. Holy cow. That's a lot of literature. That's a lot of reading. It's a lot of Wikipedia. Okay, so let me go back to splitting. I didn't finish reading that and commenting on that. Because I was starting to mention, I love it when viewers come and they have their knowledge, or they've they're at different places even in the world being educated in different materials, but we're talking about similar theories. Just social psychology calls it one thing, and different disciplines will call it a different thing, but we're talking about the same concept. It's so cool when you see those overlaps. So splitting, also called black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking, is a failure in a person's thinking to bring together a dichotomy of both positive and negative qualities of the self and others into a cohesive, realistic whole. It is a common defense mechanism. The individual tends to think in extremes, yeah. And individuals' actions and motivations are all good or all bad. Yeah, that's another cognitive bias. I don't know that one as well. But there's, man, last Friday we went over biases and we went, oh, I have to bring up Wikipedia again. Wikipedia has, so I went to list of cognitive biases and heuristics, and there's all, wait, what? Where's the Wikipedia one? There it is. And there's all these really cool heuristics, and that sounds like it's one of them. Besides brain psychology, etc., what three things could you talk about? Could you talk all day about? Don't want to get you off topic. I just want to know what analogies might be applicable for stuff. Oh man, jeez. Besides brain psychology. So, what three things could I talk about? And it's okay to get me off topic. I just pose topics as something for me to talk about in case no one's here, and that way I could still fill the whole entire hour, and then people watching recorded versions of this have like a podcast to listen to. Because I don't mind talking into the void. Like, I've already taught classes on Zoom during the pandemic, and students turn off their cameras, and you're basically talking to the void for like 2 to 3 hours, and I'm just used to it. But I was already streaming before that, I believe. I think, was I streaming before the pandemic, or did I start streaming? I don't remember actually. But anyways, so I don't mind getting off topic. I prefer to talk to people than to just drone on to the same topic if the conversation so chooses, or if the chat so chooses. So, okay. Anyway, three things I could talk about all day. See, there's a lot I could talk about all day, but I do have to I always have to say this. I just feel like it's my duty as someone that's being trained as a scientist. That there's a lot of things I could talk about, but I'm just going to always put forth that I'm not an expert in those topics. I just have, I like there's this meme out there. I have approximate knowledge of a lot of stuff. I'm not saying I have approximate knowledge of a lot of stuff, but I have approximate knowledge of things I could talk about all day. For one, like I just personally really like traveling, for example. Yeah, I really like traveling. I play music, I snowboard, I play sports. Um, I like history a lot. I like physics and chemistry, even though I'm not like an expert. I actually use physics analogies all the time in courses, like when I'm teaching psychology. Sometimes, because I teach statistics primarily. I'm kind of across the board. I do bio, psych, and statistics. Those are the three categories I generally teach, though. And I just gravitate towards physics as analogies I like to do. But interests and hobbies, traveling is a huge one. History is another one that I think I could talk about with people all day long, especially if someone else is an expert on it, then I just have a lot of questions. Languages is another one for me. I really, and also like kind of, for lack of a better term, theory crafting about languages, something I like to really do, because I got to live in Berlin for a little bit, and it was really cool learning, and I know Spanish, so that's another language I speak. So it was really cool learning German, because I never got to learn a language as an adult. Like, I just grew up speaking Spanish and English. I was very fortunate that way, that I was kind of around these two. Hydrate! Oh no, I'm running out of water. Thank you for the hydration. But I was really fortunate. I was around these two languages, and I was able to pick them up, kind of roughly around the same time. So that was cool. But I never went through any formal training in either language. So getting to do German as an adult and doing formal language, and they're going over all these grammar structures and what this is called, like what's an auxiliary verb, what's past, present, perfect, and all these different, like the preteritive, and all these different, like what are cases, dative versus accusative versus nominative versus genitive, and it has like all these different terminologies that I never really knew. I mean, we learned them. You learn them for your own language, but when you're really young and you just kind of forget all these things. At least I did. I don't know what everyone else's experience is. Let me take this drink before I forget. I have like one drink left and then I have to go refill. But So when I was learning German, yeah, I got to see language in kind of in that mechanical sense, like studying it as an adult, and now, and also after having done my bachelor's degrees and all that stuff, because I moved to Germany after I did my bachelor's degrees before graduate school, and I just lived there for nearly 2 years. And it was so cool to just see this language and be like, I can see how English is connected to German this way. And then I could be like, I wonder why why these words were maintained, but these were not. And I just kind of envision ways like of the human behavioral component, because I started to understand I had already studied social psychology and biology, and I took a lot of evolutionary psychology and a lot of evolutionary biology that explain kind of the impacts of European weather on the formation of behavior and social behaviors, and forethought and the promotion of or the evolution of the prefrontal cortex, like the pressure, the environmental pressures to produce the prefrontal cortex. And I just started thinking about all those factors that might be involved in how language is being used and kind of dispersed across Europe or dispersed across the world. So languages is another thing that I could, and I just gave like a long roundabout answer there. That's another thing that I really enjoy talking about. And currently, yeah, so on my about page, that's why I have a little asterisk on German. If we go to my on my Twitch, on my about, let me see. I did that on purpose. It's not like a typo or something. Um, Over here, where I put languages, so here are my credentials, and I put languages. I have German with an asterisk because I'm slowly losing it, and so I feel like I can't really claim I speak German. I had it at a really nice level when I lived there, and now since having moved back to the U.S. to study, because this is where I'm doing my graduate schools in the U.S., I don't really need German. Like, no one really speaks German around me, and there's no need. I'm not saying German is useless. I'm just saying where I currently live, no one uses it, no one speaks it, so I don't get to practice it anymore. So I feel like it's slipping. So I put an asterisk just to say, like, I used to speak it, and maybe if you speak with me, I'll be able to shake some cobwebs. And then Slovak, I'm just starting it right now. That's because I'm marrying someone, which is the reason why I'm not streaming next week, because I'm getting married next week, and I'm marrying someone that speaks Slovak, and so to speak with her family, I'm trying to learn her language. It's fun stuff, fun stuff. So those are some of the things that I'm interested in. I play music. For music, I primarily I just play guitar and drums right now. I'm not classically trained. I like don't know how to read. I'm music illiterate. I just like to. That's my hobby. Like right now, I can't be focusing a lot of energy on being music literate because of grad school. Have you ever heard of large-scale brain networks? I think I have, but I'm not sure if it's the same neural networks that I'm thinking about. I'm gonna Google this. Let's see. Let me see if it's the same thing. Large-scale brain networks. Let's see. Let's show the stream what I just what I came across. Google Images is where I point. Oh, Google Images. All right, let's go to Google Images. Holy. Okay. What is this called? Large-scale brain networks. Okay, cool. Is this a systems neuroscience? So that's something I'm gonna say right now. I've only TA'd. I haven't even taught this course. I only TA'd for systems neuroscience. My current understanding of the brain is very much more at the cellular level at the moment. There's like a level below systems. This looks like systems. The places I dealt with, the premedial cortex. I deal with the prefrontal cortex, the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. Sometimes I do the dorsal lateral, dorsal medial prefrontal cortex. This is cool. Okay. So there's amygdala networks. So the amygdala is your fear Well, okay, it does more than just fear, but that's just like to give a summary of the amygdala. It's like the place where fear is processed, and it's also kind of connected up with your memory centers in a way, and with stress in an indirect way. Because I mean, your stress system is hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal gland, the HPA axis. But anyway, So we have yellow, red, and blue as amygdala networks, and non-amygdala networks as green and mirror network. Interesting. So is there a particular reason? Is there something you wanted to comment about these, or something you want to share with us? Let's look at another one. Okay, so it looks like it's systems neuroscience. That's what it's like by systems. So when I say systems neuroscience, so something that like when I was in, so right now I'm in social neuroscience. The lab I was in before was called behavioral neuroscience, and in behavioral neuroscience, I'll show some images of like what I would deal with. I would look at hippocampus CA3 region, for example. So what we're really dealing with is more like images like this. Right? So we would just zoom in on the neurons and look at individual neurons and look at the impact on neurons and that type of stuff. So that's not a system because this is the components of one piece of your brain. A system can be multiple parts of the brain and how they all interact with each other to produce one behavior, like memory or motor function, things like that. And so hippocampus is part of the memory system, for example. So yeah, it's counterintuitive like aerodynamics. Wait, what? Oh, wait. There's. Oh, I didn't see the first comment there. When trying to understand behavior, it's natural to start the process with the behavior itself, and then try to contextualize it. Okay. But if you really want to understand behavior, you got to determine which large-scale brain network was active. Yeah. Okay. Um, this is one of the issues I like to mention when it comes. So like one way that we like to try to establish that to try to understand, okay, what parts of the brain are being activated when this behavior was performed is we in our lab we'll use like fMRI, right? The functional magnetic resonance imaging, because we look at the BOLD response, BOLD standing for the blood oxygen level dependent thing, and this is based on assumptions. This is something I like to mention to streams just to be like, hey, like science is amazing and everything, but it's also not this all-knowing engine entity thing. It is composed of humans. We talked about bias. I know this is a little bit off topic. We talked about bias, and humans can be biased, and scientists are humans. So not all science is going to be 100% flawless. Doesn't mean you should lose faith in science. It is one of the methods that we currently have that can help us best understand nature and answer our questions with as objective as possible. But that doesn't mean that all science is pure. I just like to say that because I've seen people make really weird comments about science, and I just want to be real with this science. And it's not an all-knowing entity as well. And so there's still a lot of things we don't know. Imagine if you can strap an MRI onto someone's head for an entire day. That would be so cool. That would be so cool. The data you could collect. Holy cow. I think eventually we'll be able to, but I guess we don't have the computing process. Maybe we do now. I don't know, but that would be so cool. I just don't know how you produce the magnetic signal that knocks down the things. Oh, so I was mentioning to the rest of the stream. If you're not familiar with MRI, I was just mentioning a little bit about the physics behind it, physics and the how kind of functions. So it functions something called the BOLD, the blood oxygen level dependent, because the assumption here, and I mentioned the assumption, this is why I guess this backtracks to why science isn't all knowing, is we assume, because we don't fully understand the brain yet. Like, we're not close to understanding the brain. The brain is incredibly complicated. It's such a powerful machine, too. It is incredible. It's an incredible organ. And by that same merit, it's incredibly hard to understand. And it's an interesting dilemma because if you really get into the nitty gritty, you might start to see that your brain is kind of you, and the rest of your body is the mechanical set that your brain is piloting to keep it alive and give it what it needs, right? Food, oxygen, and all these other things. There are important parts of the body that impact your brain itself, like send signal to the brains. It's not exactly like that, but it's interesting. So in the sense that, your brain's studying itself when you're a neuroscientist. You're like, oh, the brain is the only organ to name itself. It's a funny kind of joke there. And so the brain is incredibly complicated. Yeah, it's the final. I say that too. It's kind of the final. It's one of the final frontiers, right? And I think this is back from 2008 when I was first starting to in 2008 is when I started getting interested in neuroscience and that type of stuff. And there's some statistic produced out there. I don't know how they produced it, and now I would like to double check it. But that we apparently know more about our universe than we do our own brains. I wouldn't be surprised because we do know a lot about our universe, even though the universe is infinite. But we just do have a lot of knowledge about the universe, and it's easier to observe in action, in motion, than it is the brain, right? Because we can't really observe the brain in motion. It's really, really hard. Um, we're getting better at it, but it's super hard. But it is such an incredible organ. Holy cow. Holy cow. And so the blood oxygen level dependent assumption is that we assume that because there's blood in that part of the brain, we assume that you're using that part of the brain. But something I also like to remind people that work with MRIs, or that are not work with MRIs, sorry, people that are newer to like understanding the brain and its functions, is that there's an analogy. It's not the best analogy, but it's a quick analogy to kind of understand why the blood oxygen level dependent signal is an assumption, and it's not, and it still like doesn't allow us to do full causality behind statements. I'm going to get rid of this image. So our brains, in one sense, can be seen as like an orchestra. This is an interesting analogy I heard as an undergrad, and I've liked it ever since. And when I say that, it means for an orchestra to play a beautiful piece, for it to be harmonious, it's equally as important for the players to play when they need to play, right? When they're reading their notes to play, than it is for them to be quiet. If they didn't quiet up, it would be chaos up there. And so the same logic can be applied to the brain. It's equally as important for neurons to activate and fire when they're needed to, but it's also important for certain neurons to not fire and quiet down when they're needed to. Right? When you're sleeping, you need parts of your brain to deactivate. You need other parts of your brain to activate, right? Your sleep cycles require the activation of certain populations of neurons to produce your sleep cycles, to produce what's going on in your brain during sleep. So let me just read this really quick. It shows which large-scale network is active. That's so cool. But it'll also show specific resource. Ooh, depending on tasks like facial recognition. My colleague in my lab did a lot of facial processing. He looked at intergroup behaviors and facial processing. So how do we process faces that we believe to be our in-group members, for example, versus out-group members? How do we think of prototype members of our in-group versus out-group? It's really interesting work. But anyways, or math or word generation. Very cool. That is super cool. That's cool that they can do the systems. Because like I was mentioning, my research was looking at least my research was in rats, first of all. So we had to kill the rats to extract the cells, to look at them underneath the microscope, to look at individual cells. So that's why I'm not super knowledgeable on systems. Anyway. So that's the assumption. So I think man, so many tangents, but I just really love when people are here to chat with me. We can have a lot of cool tangents there. So yeah, so thanks again for being here and providing comments here. This is really cool. But I wanted to finish something with the assumptions of the MRI. Yeah, so it is an assumption in science. Like, hey, we assume that because blood is there, it is that part of the brain is responsible for the behavior, but we're not 100% certain, because parts of the brain that aren't lighting up, that might be important part of the behavior as well, that part of the brain does not light up to produce the behavior that we're observing or that they're doing inside the MRI. Now, the behaviors inside the MRI are largely going to be like they're doing tasks of reading things, doing things on monitors, that type of stuff. But yeah. I don't work with mice anymore, so I'm not actually familiar with that place. I used to be in a mouse lab, but to be honest, like I started working with them, and okay, let me take a step back. I worked with rats and mice vaguely, but I mainly worked with rats. Rats were amazing, mice not so much. But then I quickly found out I didn't want to work with rats anymore. It's not so much the experimentation part that bothered me, but I just couldn't get used to killing them, and so. I just was like, I really want to work with human participants. But I'm going to Google them. Allen Brain Institute. Oh, cool. How am I not familiar with this? What am I doing with my life? Founded in 2003. Where have I been? I'm gonna save this and read about it later. This is cool. Oh, I thought it said Open Science Framework for a second. I'm like, okay, now I'm in love with them. I'm gonna have to read about this. I'll have to read about this and learn about this institute. Cool, thanks for sharing that. I was not familiar with this. If you're all curious what I'm currently looking at, this is what I'm currently looking at. I read this as Open Science Framework for some reason. I mean, there's a heuristic. We've talked about heuristics and mental shortcuts on this chat before, and one of those heuristics that we have is if we expect something to be a certain way, we're more likely to perceive things that way. And so when I saw open, immediately my brain kind of auto-filled it to Open Science Framework because I also saw the word science and I saw F. So there's so many pieces to that puzzle that I instantly jumped to Open Science Framework. If you're unfamiliar with Open Science Framework, it's this really cool push in science. I really love that we're doing this in the scientific community. Let me see if I can just Google it. Open Science Framework. OSF, yeah. So this is a really cool place where they're just encouraging researchers to put up all their research before they run anything, before they start doing anything, put up exactly how they're going to do everything, what they're planning on running, how many participants, X, Y, like basically your entire experiment from A to Z before they do anything, and then the website's going to lock it in, and if you alter anything, you're no longer able to get published. I know it sounds strict, I know, but this is good for science in the sense that there's a lot of bad science out there that's been published. A lot of false publications are out there. There's actually, in 2015, 2016-ish, I don't remember exactly which year, we found out we're in something called the replication crisis. And by that, it was some science team out of Stanford, led by like a statistician whiz, basically started doing a lot of analyses on a lot of empirical articles out there and was testing their validity and reliability, these are two terms from statistics that are very important to us as scientists. That kind of gives us the sense that you're doing good science, not bad science. Um, and so he started testing out like, okay, let's see like if these are reliable and valid experiments and stuff like that. And man, the results were looking pretty bad. Like so much literature out there had not been replicated or did not even use enough sample size by today's standards to be able to generalize the way they were generalizing back then. They used completely wrong designs. A lot of people were found to be p-hacking. P-hacking is a term in our science for basically fudging your numbers, messing with your statistics to tell a story that you want so you can get published. Because unfortunately, the way publication works is it rewards certain results over others. And Open Science Framework is working to eliminate all of that, to make sure that the science is honest and that regardless of your results, you'll get published. Because that's one issue in publication is that a lot of articles, if you're not finding any results, well, why would they publish it? And so people would cheat to get the results they wanted so they could get published. That was the end result there. Otherwise, you don't really get a job without your publications, or you can't maintain your job. It's quite stressful sometimes. And so that's what leads some people to that's what might motivate some people to kind of break the rules from time to time. And so this other scientist found that there's a lot of literature out there where the rules were broken on science. And here's a push, the Open Science Framework. Here's a push for kind of going against it. Something that's helped us a lot, interestingly, is computer science here, is the development of computing languages. The way it's actually helped us is that now that we can, a lot of scientists, like a lot of psychological sciences and biological sciences even, but like, for example, I teach a lot of psychology courses, we're teaching R, like the programming language R. That's what it's called, R. And it's a programming language. It has nothing to, I mean, it has stuff to do with psychology, but we're using R to do the statistics on the experiments. And so by using R, that means we have this code that anyone else can run on their computer, and they can detect any sort of code that is making it so they can cheat on my designs. And so Open Science Framework is going to say, okay, provide your code, please. And that way anyone can look at my code. Anyone who's an expert in R can be like, yeah, I can see that you're fudging your numbers right here in your code. Because the code should be able to take the raw data, and you should be able to give me your raw data, and I should be able to run it through an R code that's clean and get the same results as you did on your computer. And if I'm not, then you're doing something. And Open Science Framework can catch that and make sure that it kind of halts bad science. So there is a push out there against bad science. Just want to make that very as public as I can out there to the internet. You know, I want to promote that as much on this channel because I do see on social media from time to time a lot of bad mouthing of science because, yeah, some science has been wrong before. Yeah, science is wrong a lot of the times. That's kind of the point of science. It's part of the scientific method is test, retest, retest, retest. We learn through failure, actually. We learn a lot through failure. Um, and so, yeah, there's going to be, and some people will find corrupted scientists and now claim that the entire science community is that way. That's not the case. No, there are corrupted scientists. I'm not going to sugarcoat science. Not everyone in science is pure. There's a lot of politics in science. There's a lot of motivation, greed. There's a lot of greed that can feed into it. A lot of people want to become famous scientists, right? Become the next Hawking or the next Einstein, and so they might be cheating to get there, right? Science isn't void of these types of people. Like all professions are going to have it. All groups of people are going to have those types of people. That's just the reality, right? And so, but I just want to make it clear that there is a push against it. And I don't know why I went on this rant of that, but I guess this is important to me. At least it's important enough to me to just make it clear that we are doing something. The scientific community is aware that there's bad science out there, and we're doing something about it. We're trying to normalize this. There's actually rewards. Open Science Framework actually tries to reward you for doing this. They pay you like thousands of dollars, not thousands, but like $8,000. You can get more money. Some grants are actually, this is pretty cool. I'm going to stop talking about this in just a second, I promise. But even just to show that there's a lot of positive stuff behind it. So science isn't doomed or anything. We're on the right path here and it's picking up, but even grants are starting to be like, yeah, we only award our grant money, or we only publish, even some publishers say, people that have registered, it's called pre-registered, who have pre-registered their experimental designs. Without that, you're not getting published. So that's a cool push for it. Not everyone's on board yet, but you know, little by little. So that's my rant on kind of a current state of affair for science. All right. Wikipedia has a list of serial killers that can be sorted by number of victims. There's a lot of doctors and nurses on the list. Okay, hold up. Now I'm thrown off. And what is... Can I ask what is... Is there a comment or thought on that? Oh, I see. Okay, now I see. Okay, man, I just lost. Okay, there's a lot of doctors and nurses on it. I see what you're saying. Yeah. There can be bad people in a lot of groups of yes, exactly. Okay, I was like, where's this connection? Sorry. Okay, I just realized it. Wow. I think it's yeah, it's been a long day. Like I said, I started my day at 6:30, had to start working. I haven't stopped. Whew. I apologize for that. I was like, what is he talking about? No, I totally get it. Yeah. That is scary. That's actually scary. That's really scary to know. So, yeah, we've talked a lot. That's been good. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Anything's welcome from chat. Otherwise, I do feel like I need to start wrapping it up. I have more work I have to do before I go to bed, unfortunately. But this has been a really good chat, everybody. I'm gonna stick around a little bit longer. I'm not closing it yet. I'm happy to hear any last minute comments, thoughts, opinions, experiences. Can relate to addictions and can relate to anything else we've been chatting about in this last hour. Happy to hear it, everybody. Happy Tuesday. All right, here we go. I wonder if the amount of new or groundbreaking stuff to still discover is receding pocket that is a receding man, I can't read anymore. Holy cow. Is a receding pocket that makes people desperate to compete with historical world-changing findings. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know because I feel like sometimes that might be driving some of those behaviors, right? This kind of zero-sum mentality. By zero-sum means like, oh, if they get a groundbreaking finding, that takes one more away from me. Which I still think there's so much to learn that we don't really have to worry about it in the next like hundreds of years. Like there's still so much to learn. There's still so much to investigate. There's still so much science to be done. And even our science itself, the scientific method, that itself, there's still so much for that to evolve and become a really refined and almost like 100% accurate tool at answering questions. Because right now it's not 100% accurate. Right now we have limited knowledge about a lot of stuff. So we can be like 99% accurate, sure, but not 100%. So I wonder that too. I wonder if a lot of scientists or a lot of people that are kind of after groundbreaking stuff or material or whatever it may be, if they have that zero sum mentality. And again, by zero sum, I mean that like if they get something that like that there's a finite resource and someone else getting it reduces your ability to get it or reduces how much you're going to get. I mean, I feel like that might be why there might be competition among in some departments. This is something I really love about my department is everyone's doors are basically open. We're like super welcoming of collaborations. We share our ideas all the time, and we're not really worried about. It's called in our field, it's called getting your idea scooped because like they might get a publication out of your idea. We're not super worried about that on our department, but I know that not all departments are the same across universities. And so I wonder if that's also kind of some of the motivations as to why some people will try to scoop other people. Because like, ooh, I'm gonna try to get the publication first because it's a finite resource, not so much for like, oh, because I just want another publication. But I think some people are doing it just because it adds another publication to their CV. Like in the car industry, it's very competitive because all cars are so well designed, featured, engineered, optimized that yeah, it's hard to make something. Yeah, I was just having a thought about this. So I was on like I think I was on 9gag or something. I was on some meme website, and on this meme website, there's a video that showed like an Olympian from way back when, like the film was black and white and all that stuff, to an Olympian today, and it said how much gymnastics has evolved over time, and it showed like this Olympian like not doing. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks so much for the follow. It's always interesting to see that little animation I made. It took I'm proud of it. I'm not an animator myself at all. It took a little bit of time for me to be able to get the things to do what they're doing. But anyway, thank you so much for the follow and thanks for the water. I'm out of water. I owe you a drink, but I just want to finish my thought before I get the drink. So I saw that video and it was showing this gymnast doing like moderate stuff, and this video might be completely wrong. It might just show someone warming up. Obviously, I don't know, but let's just say it's true. Like, yeah, people aren't like. Let's just take that to be true. People are doing these basic things, and nowadays they're doing these insane flips with triple, quadruple. I don't know what's going on. They're doing all these insane things compared to Olympians back then, and then something that like in a lot of recent like events documentaries they're finding is a lot of people have been doping, right? A lot of people have been kind of cutting corners or cheating or um, doing something just to be better than the other person. And so maybe we've kind of also hit that limit in biology. Like our bodies can only do so much, can only produce so much force, inertia, what have you, can only do so much when it comes to something that you need to add some biological enhancement to do anything further than that. And so we're already engineered in a certain way, and we've kind of hit our limits as biological organs until we can evolve a little bit or something. We might have to turn to these doping procedures. That's just something I was thinking, like, have we hit our limits? Because it just seems to be the case that more and more people are being caught with this doping. Like, can anyone perform at these peak levels that these people are breaking records with? Can they perform completely natural? Because, and I'm just basing this on I have very limited knowledge on this field, of course, but I saw this documentary called like Icarus, and this guy trying to be all natural, and he just couldn't do anything. He's like, dude, I trained so much and I can't do anything. Lo and behold, he finds that everyone that he's competing against is doping, and they're just really good at hiding it. Like that becomes the new science: is how well can you hide the doping inside of people's bodies, and like or the procedure to hide it. So, anyways, I'm gonna go grab that drink of water. I'll leave that kind of thought of because you just made me think. Cars are just already designed so well. Like so, to me, it just maybe it resonated. Like bodies are maybe already designed so well with what they already do. To push it beyond that is gonna require that extra oomph, that doping. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab water. Whew. We got water. Cheers. Hey, welcome. Haven't seen you for a while, Sri Lanka or Sri Lanka. I really hope I'm not mispronouncing that. Welcome. Always good to see you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um, Unfortunately, it's winding down for me. I'm gonna have to close down this stream here pretty soon. I still have some emails I have to send to. They're very important emails. I have an interview this Friday for a potential fellowship I might get. I'm really excited about that, so I have to prep for that. I'm traveling this week. So yeah, I just want to reiterate. I just want to remind the stream. I'm not gonna be able to host. I won't be able to host Science Friday this Friday. I won't be able to host next Taco Tuesday, and I won't be able to host next Science Friday. So I'm going to miss 2 Science Fridays and just 1 Taco Tuesday. I'm very sorry, but I am getting married, and so I'm going to go do that. So obviously won't be able to stream during that time. Today's topic, so the question is, what was today's topic? It began, so it did change a lot over time, which is amazing. I love that happens on this channel. Yeah, I'm getting married. Today's topic initiated with addictions, and it was stemmed from another viewer was interested in kind of chatting about whether we can be addicted to negative emotions and can people be addicted to stress. We started with it, and we also started talking a little bit about just general addictions, like what's the definition of addictions, and then Saito here joined the conversation, and we started really having other really cool conversations that have swerved left and right, but kind of maintaining in a similar scientific vein or a similar theme, I should say. Yeah. So that's what we've been talking about. Okay, that's what I think about the brain. It's already good, yeah. But then you got Elon Musk with his Neuralink bullshit. I don't know much about that. I don't know what he's trying to promote. I mean, he's trying to be first into a potential niche. Okay, all new market, but I think it's kind of a waste of time. Maybe it would be more useful somewhere. Yeah, it'd be cool if we could start. It'd be so cool if we could start solving a lot of the things that plague our brains, because they're already such amazing machines. They really are. And if we can keep them healthy, they produce really cool. Oh my gosh. I mean, we can already see what our brains can produce, right? Look at all this like magnificent like things that have been brought forth through thought, right? Like all the technology we have, all the medicine we have, all the understanding we have about so many things, the fact that we're communicating right now across these mediums and you're listening to this music, it's all digital. All this stuff was brought through these really marvelous brains. And so if we just keep them healthy, that'd be very, very cool. I'm not entirely opposed to trying to advance the brain either, like completely. I'm not opposed to that, but I do agree that like we could be spending a lot of time as well and a lot of this money on neurodegenerative diseases, for example. So what is addiction then? Oh man, that was quite a conversation. But we basically ended up with, I'm going to scroll up and repaste it. We basically ended up with this definition. After having we cross-reference, right? That's something I'm going to promote on this channel. We don't just go to Google and go to any sort of blog and take that as our definition or take that as our like, objective or empirical definition of a certain concept. We did a lot of cross-referencing here. So by that, we checked like the National Institute for Health. They tend to have some pretty good sources or pretty good science or backed articles. We looked at what else did we look at? APA. We looked at WebMD. I don't really like using WebMD sometimes. But anyways, I'm going to grab this right here. So here's what happened here? Okay, my bot, what happened there? Let's delete. Oh, it actually showed up on the chat. 3 bots in a row. Best followers, primes, and viewers. All right, first time chat from viewer. Thanks, bots, for stopping by, but no thank you for whatever you're offering. All right, let's get rid of that. Yeah, built the machine that went to the moon and back. It's an incredible organ. This organ continues to produce. So here's the definition. I'm gonna invite you. I'm very sorry to do this to you, Sri Lanka. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna invite you if you really wanted to hear that discussion. I'll invite you to watch the video on demand. Like it'll be once the stream is over, you can just start it from the beginning. I also am probably going to upload these videos. I do upload, Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays to YouTube, just so after they're deleted from the Twitch, they're still somewhere in cyberspace and accessible. So I'm going to invite you to do that. I don't have the time to have that whole conversation over again, unfortunately. I do have I have work to do, but these conversations are so great. It's so hard to leave. Yeah, and get own bot. It was 3 bots too. Like someone sent like a bot attack or something. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know. Did I take the drink? I hope I took the drink, but no, I did. I even cheersed. Ugh. There's another hydrate. That's two drinks. I just took one, but I still owe another one. By that definition, I find it quite hard to see how someone can become addicted. I mean, this was just a very broad baseline definition. When we did talk about it, we really focused on that causing psychological and physical harm component. I think that's where, I mean, I don't know your entire thoughts of this, but just as like a heads up, we did focus a lot about that, of that being like one of the huge indicators of an addiction. But I'm curious, and I think this will be kind of one of the final little thoughts or final moments. Why do you find it? Why do you what? Yo, Diva looking fine. Okay. Why do you find it hard to see how someone can become addicted based on this definition? This for reason this song has like a really cool beat to it that always just makes me motivated to do something badass. I don't know. I don't know what that even means. Like something badass is. I guess badass is the wrong term. Like to do something. Like either something productive or like game, but be like get like a kill streak in the game I'm playing or whatever, or like score the goal in Rocket League. It just makes me want to like be successful in some way, shape, or form. Successful in my endeavors. That's probably the way I'm meaning to say badass. It just sounds like a badass song. So are you playing Overwatch right now, or what's going on with that Diva comment? Can't think of a reason why someone would have the inability to stop using a substance or engage. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, that's a hyperlink? Yeah, I'm not clicking that hyperlink. Or a typo. Is that a hyperlink? Are you trying to rickroll us or something there? She's just fine. I don't know. I'm skeptical. Let me pull something up though for that comment. Just because it's interesting because we actually touched it. I think if I understood your comment, I don't know if I fully understood it. If I understood your comment, is it that you can't think of a reason why someone can't stop something? Because it's not a hyperlink. Oh. Does it actually, what if I do like t.v? Like, does it hyperlink it t.v? I don't know why yours hyperlinked then, because mine's not doing anything. But I can do this, check it out. Oh, wait, what? I can do GG. Anyway, I'm trying to pull something up. Let me look for it real quick. Oh, dang. If it gets on my stream... Okay, I don't know some of these rules. If it gets on my stream, Like if I show it and it gets them banned, I see. I mean, but what happens if other people? Her name is legit. I know Diva from Overwatch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see. So something I just wanted to bring up, because I mean you're not. I think what you're saying kind of agrees with the DSM. But let me see. Where is my? There it is. So here I have Google, right? And yeah, make sure your screen links off screen so you don't get. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I sometimes I will admit, and it's good to be reminded of these things. Sometimes I mean I don't, when someone else posts something link, I always, if they do, I always try to not. I don't have my screen showing what that is, but sometimes I've like my music will pop up and it'll be there like, oh, I didn't want to show it, but there's nothing bad on it. But yeah, sometimes I forget that I do have something that can be shown to people. So it is a good practice to remind ourselves. So anyway, I did Google when I was going after the definition of addiction. We went over the Wikipedia, the APA, the NIH. Under NIH, it was really interesting. They had this comment here. Where many people don't understand why or how other people become addicted to drugs. They made mistake. This is from the National Institute of Health, by the way. If you're curious about the source right there, it's right there. So it's a pretty reputable resource or a source. So I just read this quick snippet. We didn't go that much deeper into it, but I think it kind of relates to your comment. They may mistakenly think that those who use drugs lack moral principles or willpower, and that they could stop their drug use by simply choosing to. So I mean, you just made a comment that maybe it makes sense for drug, because chemically you might be chemically dependent on a drug that could cause the addiction, but behaviorally. So on that sense. If you still take a neurochemical pathway, you could still create some dependencies based on a behavior that can make it harder to stop. And so that would be considered addiction. But the interesting thing is that the DSM, which is kind of like a diagnostic manual, only really looks at gambling as an addiction, but not so much other behaviors like video game addiction or sex addiction. They don't consider that any sort of disorder. Yeah, fear of the uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms can cause people to continue using a substance. But also like the fear of comfort in their lives can keep them from withdrawing from a certain behavior, if it's a behavioral addiction, if you will. But I would love to continue chatting. Here's the open science. That was an accident. I just want to kind of flash that up subliminally, not subliminally. Now it's not subliminal because now it's overt. Subliminally message again that open science framework is a thing. But anyway, so fear of feeling sick, it's itself a symptom of being sick from repeatedly consuming a harmful substance. Yep. So I would love to keep this conversation going. I think it might be a cool talking point for another Science Friday, another Taco Tuesday. So I'm happy to talk about this again, especially Sri Lanka, since you kind of joined us near the end. I do have a lot of work on my plate, and it's already getting quite late for me, so I got to get this done. I got to get some things on I got to get the ball rolling on certain things, because, like I said, I'm getting married, and so I'm back on. So I leave this Thursday, and I'm back on. I'm going to stream the Tuesday of the 26th. So I'm gone until the 26th, basically. So it's 2 weeks from now. 1 week makes it the 19th. 2 weeks, yeah, 2 weeks from now, and the stream is back. I've known her for like 7 or 8 years. 8 years? 8 years. Yeah. We've been together for for some time. I met her in Berlin, so that was cool when I used to live in Berlin, and we've been through life. We had a long distance. She's not from the same country I am. We had a long distance relationship down in there. We've traveled. Yeah, we lived in Berlin together for a little bit, so we had that experience. And there's a hydrate. Anyway, long story short, yeah, we've been through a lot, and we're excited. We were supposed to get married 2 years ago. The pandemic came and closed it all off for us. We had to replan it another year, replan it yet another year because the pandemic just kept going. Yeah. Was your proposal in private or you do something special? I tried to do something special. I was in the middle of grad school. Like, I'm still in grad school now. Let me take the drink that I owe. But I I didn't want it to be too crowded. That's just not the way I call her my wife sometimes because we've already been married legally for 2 years now. We just haven't had the ceremonies with our like the celebration with our families. That's what we're really looking forward to. Um, but it was she's not very much about being the center of attention or like big crowds and that type of stuff, and so I made it private, but I did invite her side of the family who they all live in Europe. She's from Europe. Her side of family, I brought them over as a surprise. She didn't know, so they came in over because right now I live in the U.S. and so they flew over and they were there, and her best friend came too. So that was all a surprise to her. So I just kind of surprised her and had her like most close loved ones because she really loves her family. She's very close to her family, and so then I just kind of had her. Yeah, I kind of surprised her with that, and that's how I did it. Weddings are a waste of money, yeah, but it's the giant parties that I mean, I think that some of them are fun, some of them, yeah, I agree with you. They're kind of decadent, they're over the top, but some of them are like very cultural. Yeah, and it also I guess depends on how much you spend. Like some of the weddings I've been to have been very decadent. Some of them have just been like literally gathering of friends, just like to celebrate the union of people. There's a lot of opinions on it. But anyways, I do really have to go. It's about to be that time where I've been on the stream. The stream hasn't been for 3 hours, but it's nearing, it's getting closer to my bedtime. So I do have to jet, everybody. I'm happy to talk about all these things. All these opinions are fantastic. They're very interesting. This is so cool. I'm so glad multiple people showed up. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. I really appreciate it. This has been really, really a great Taco Tuesday. I didn't actually think I would have the energy to talk for this long because, like I said, today I had to wake up. I had to teach at 9 in the morning. I woke up at 6 to start kind of prepping myself a little bit. Had to start teaching. 9 in the morning, lectured for 3 hours. I had to train my research assistants. That took 2.5 hours. So that was a lot of talking. So much talking. I didn't think I would be able to do that much more today, but apparently there was still more juice in me left. So, Dom Turtle, did someone say family? So the rough estimate, I think is 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now. The Twitter. So I'm gonna put this up one more time. I just want to show this on the same page right now that you're on my page, right? Let's go to that sharing mode. On this page, this is where I'm just continuing to announce things. It has the list of the streams. Like, hey, today's topic is this, and this, and we're streaming at this time. Hey, I'm like gaming stream time. I have all these announcements. You don't have to follow me on Twitter. I'm not asking for Twitter likes, nothing like that. You don't have to like me. You don't have to do anything. I'm just saying the information is there if you're curious. So I'll be tweeting there, but the tweet is present on this page on purpose. I did that by design, so you don't have to have a Twitter account. You don't have to follow me on Twitter. So this is here by design, and even today I announced it. On today's Taco Tuesday, I did announce we have to be a little bit later than normal. Join the combo at 7:30. So that's all here, and I'm just going to continue to post that. Think about parsing. Okay, I will. Think about parsing large-scale brain networks to individual behaviors. Let me write that down. I have to write that down somewhere because I have so much on my mind right now regarding my dissertation. Like, we're launching the study. The pilot study is already launched, and the first participants, we're running them this Friday, and there's still some tweaks I need to make to my experiment to make sure everything's good. Because I ran it today, my experiment, and some errors came up with the programs that we're using. I have to go fix those bugs tomorrow. So I have a lot on my mind. So I got to keep... I got to write down that note. Let me write down a note to myself. Think about large-scale brain networks to individual behaviors. Let's see if we can have a conversation about it sometime. So again, 2 weeks from now, I will be live. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Thank you, Saito, for all the interesting conversation and comments you provided tonight. That was amazing. I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much I appreciate people coming and chatting with me. Same with you, Sri Lanki, and same with you, SPS. Thank you all for being here. SPS, thanks for setting up the Taco Tuesday. I didn't really have a topic today, and so today's topic was provided by SPS. I'm always happy to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. Of course, I'm always going to have to admit I'm not an expert. So addictions, I'm not an expert. That's why I also made it a Taco Tuesday, not a Science Friday. Taco Tuesdays, again, we just want to chat about things. Some science might be involved. That's fine. We can nerd out, do whatever. But it's very much, I'm trying to make it as open as possible. We've talked about travel before, food before on Taco Tuesdays. It doesn't always have to be very scientific driven, but I understand the channel is very scientific oriented. So if a lot of our conversations go that way, which with me, they tend to, that's just the way it went today. It just keeps happening. Can't help it. That's what's happening. But Science Fridays is very much where we're talking more direct about science. Anything for families. So today's topic was provided by SPS. So thanks again for that. And thanks Sri Lanki and thanks Saito for joining me today. I hope to see you in the future streams and to continue to have these really cool conversations. This is great. I'm going to try to get the text to speech. And also another reminder, again, you don't have to do this. I'm not asking for anything from you all, but on the same Twitter page, on my same Twitch page, there's this badge that says like join us on Discord. There is a Discord community that I'm trying to work on and building. It's not fully pristine and beautiful and all automated with all these bots, but it's already there, and I've had help from people in the channel and on this Discord channel. Let me pull it up really quick. Basically, where is it? Topic announcements. Basically, all I want to really show here is on this Discord channel, we have all these different channels where I've posted citations from time to time of things I've talked about. I really don't do too much posting. It's mainly if you do want to see a citation, I can post it there, but I don't proactively post because a lot of the citations I'm posting are on the live streams already. But if people want it, I can do that, but that's just part of the channel. But here I do use Discord as well to announce topics. So I've been doing that for a little bit too. So if you want to join the Discord, that's also a place where I brought on other viewers or people that I've known a little bit more, or maybe even known personally. Like some of my colleagues, I've actually brought on here, and they've been able to talk about their research. I've brought on other researchers onto this channel, and they just come to the Discord channel. So the other purpose of the Discord is so we can have a voice chat, so we can do voice to voice. So that's there. Just another thing I wanted to mention. There's multiple channels for a lot of different topics. Yeah, other than that, thank you so much, everybody. Again, this was an awesome Taco Tuesday. I do have some more work I got to jet to go do. It's very urgent before I run off and get married. So I got to go do that. And I will see everyone in 2 weeks, hopefully. Don't forget about this channel. We're just gonna keep having these conversations, and we're gonna keep chugging along. So I hope to see you all in a couple of weeks. Have a wonderful week. No Science Friday this week. I'm very sorry, but it'll be back. April 26th. Cool. Thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful night. I'm peacing out now. Goodbye.